Hello and welcome to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. Hey Paul, have you seen Avengers Endgame yet?
I have not.
Oh, okay, hang on a second. I gotta think of a new episode idea. Okay, took me a while, but how about this? So you have seen Infinity War, right?
Every other Marvel movie, just not that one.
Okay, wait, not Infinity War?
Sorry, not Endgame.
Okay, so you have seen Infinity War. Okay, so what we're going to do is, in order to assist the Avengers in their fight against Thanos, and since nobody can be more useless than Hawkeye anyways, we're going to pick a video game character to help out in the battle.
Yes, they're gonna need some help. All right, let's do it.
All right, so a little bit of parameters on this one. We're going to, of course, the point being that we're going to take a character, only one. So each one is going to be considered individually. I know we have like a couple of different picks, but we're just going to assume that we pick one and all other video game characters are thereby ineligible. So you can't, there's no package deals. If you choose Sam, you get no Max kind of thing, right? Everyone else is gone except for the one that you chose to save in this instance. Second of all, this is still going to be a movie, so keep that in mind. This isn't just about fighting the war, because anyone can choose the most OP character, because that would make for a very horrible movie, because it's just so OP that there's no point. So, choosing from a narrative standpoint, which character do you think would be the best to include?
All right. So taking it from games as per the rules, and I will try and abide by them. I was just looking at my boxes, basically, just trying to figure out, who'd be interesting, useful, etc. And I found one that I would love to see. I suspect some of you listeners out there would like to see too, but it's completely unfair. For the sake of this whole game, picking a video game character because he's licensed and because his name is Indiana Jones.
Right.
Let's do it. Put him in the Avengers. I'd love to see that. I really would. I wouldn't care about, the fact that he's 80, none of that. That'd be really well on.
I totally see the honorable mention thing. I don't see what he would particularly add to anything other than just cool factor, because I'd like crossovers, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, he could, the Avengers have already taught us that there's a couple fillers in there, like Hawkeye and Black Widow, so he could step in there and he really fucked people up with that whip as long as they were standing within 8 feet of him and reasonably still for him to get to them.
I still don't think, unless you're a Belmont, that a whip is really an effective weapon against like the armies of evil, of alien evil.
Well, they didn't think that about a bow and arrow, but here we are, so.
Okay, I concede that point. Moving on.
Another of my honorable mentions is because there's a gray area over this character, or else I would have picked him, and that is from Grim Fandango. I've got Manny, who's good at being dead. That's one of his things. But I felt like he was the Grim Reaper, but I don't know if he does any reaping, so that's why I can't really put him in. If he did a reaping on everyone, that'd be a great pick. He could just go and do a reaping and help the team, whatever. But if he's just like a dead salesman. Shops are probably closed because of all the war.
I might actually like to see a spin-off in which you see Manny in the Land of the Dead doing the whole travel agent for the dead kind of thing, with half the universe flooding in all at once because they all just got eradicated instantly. Imagine him trying to deal with that whole flood, but I'm not sure about actually making him an Avenger. I know he carries that scythe around. I only got part of the way through the game, so I don't know if he actually like deals with people at all in order to reap. But
right.
Yeah, as far as I've gotten in the game, there has been no reaping.
He ain't done a single reap. That's what I feared. Yeah, I'm not sure. And I thought too, like he's immortal because he's already dead, but that doesn't make you useful. Like just because you can't be killed dead doesn't mean you won't just stand there getting killed over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like the end of Doctor Strange. That's not necessarily useful power.
But he's also not death. He's just a Grim Reaper in a world in which Grim Reapers are basically somewhere between a species of people and a job they have to do.
I've got one last honorable mention, and I'll try and make this pretty quick. This isn't necessarily one honorable mention; it's a couple. I'll breeze through it, but it's what I did here was I couldn't help but try and think of like who in games, adventure games, would make good replacements for the Avengers. So this is just a little
Right.
bonus content,
Okay.
and I've tried to come up with some clever ones. Actually, Iron Man being Mega Man, so I had that. So cross that off the list. That's a good one. I picked to replace the Winter Soldier. I have Sonny Bonds, because he's hard like that.
Okay.
For Black Widow, I went with Laura Bow. Same hair, the girls. I feel like Laura could, come up with a solid conclusion as to why everyone's dying.
Okay. There's quite a difference in those characters right there. I know you. I don't know why you think they're comparable just because they're women with similar color hair. That's incredibly sexist, and I'm editing that out. But the difference between I might not edit it out because I want you to feel the shame. The difference between the two is that the Black Widow is a deadly spy, basically, right? Like she's an agent. She's does all the fighting, shooting. She's so good at being a spy that even though she's a completely perfectly, I don't want to say average or normal because she's like more than that, but she's just a person, but so highly trained that she can stand next to superheroes. Whereas Laura Bow would basically watch everything and then at the end tell you what happened.
Okay, all right, maybe it wasn't the most fleshed out. You've got a pretty good point there. Laura Bow might be a good kind of Morgan Freeman at the end of everything, narrate what just done happened.
I do have one sort of, I don't want to call it a dishonorable mention, but just sort of like a pick that would sound cool in a certain way, but is not. And it's actually Bobbin Threadbare. And the reason why I don't want him to be on the team is because, number one, even though he has technically like magic powers, they're kind of useless because it takes him he has to sing 4 notes in order for them to do anything. And then they'll just like dye them green. Or, he can open doors sometimes and unspiral things. So his magic is effectively not useful in terms of fighting an army. But then he's also OP because all he has to do is remove his hood and everyone dies. Like he has more power than the Infinity Gauntlet pretty much because he can kill like 100% of people just by taking off his hood. Maybe we should actually go with the people that do belong on the Avengers now.
Well, I agree, but I'll warn you now as we continue, the characters I'm picking make no more sense than any of the aforementioned. I'm going to lead in with this one saying that this one could either replace something in the Avengers or just stand on its own. So I'm going to approach it as just standing on its own. I would like to see Cedric the Owl in the Avengers.
Oh no, you're going to divide our audience here, man.
Yes, and to those listening, I expect memes. All right, I want to see that owl in the Avengers. Maybe one of those cool Joss Whedon circle shots that they done, but with Cedric right there, and it's 20 pixel glory. Yeah, I'd like to see Cedric. I don't have a lot of reasons other than how amusing the visual is. So I think his best strength in this scenario is visually pleasing to at least 1,400 people out of the millions that go see it.
I think I forget how many times they might show up. I think they do show up in Endgame possibly, but in at least the first Avengers movie, there's those giant space worms that come around, destroying the city.
Right.
And the famous Hulk, you better get angry. He's like, oh, that's my secret. I'm always angry. Then he punches it in the face and kills it.
Yeah.
Instead of the line like, "Oh, you better get angry."
Classic Hulk.
Instead of like the line, "You better start getting angry," and he says, "I'm always angry." It should have been, "Watch out, he'll poison a snake."
Yes, and actually, you've just invented his purpose. That's what he does. He gives everyone a heads up, but it's so close to a heads up, you don't have physical time to react to the news. He just makes it more panicky and frightening right before you get shot. That's awesome. I know my opening argument is perhaps even weaker than my honorable mentions, at least that I was able to talk about for a few minutes. So to make this something I can actually talk about, And I promise my second choice is actually no better. But to make this more talkable, what I could say is, you're familiar with Falcon, obviously, right? He's an Avenger.
Yes,
Now,
that's right.
in
Oh, speaking of
the
useless
comic,
people. Oh, sorry, you go ahead. But
yeah,
God damn it.
yeah. What are you without your fancy backpack? That's all it is. Just a, just a
It
backpack.
reminds me of the sketch I once saw where I forget where it was. It was actually pretty popular at the time. But I can't take credit for this joke. But it was basically a sketch of Professor X laying off the X-Men, and he was talking to Angel, and he's like asking Angel, okay, so what exactly do you do? And he's like, well, I can fly. He's like, and yeah. He's like, and that's it. And Professor X is sort of like, well, you see, the thing is, we have a lot of people on our team who can fly and do something else. That reminded me so much when I saw Falcon. It's like, okay, you can fly. We also have other people who can fly and are extremely powerful people.
Like they're so proficient that it's just walking at that point.
Yeah. There's not many Avengers who can't fly. You can't just get by saying my power is that I fly.
He's I'm like Iron Man, but I can't fit in small areas, and then I don't have every other thing Iron Man has. I just do the flying bit, and I got these goggles.
So, well, let's see. I'm the Hulk. I can jump so fast and hard that it's like flying, and we have and I'm Thor. I'm a literal thunder god, and I'm Vision. I am an infinity stone encased in a vibranium body, and I fly.
Oh, that's awesome. That is particularly weak. I mean, I would like to compare his airtime to like a double tap in Mario. I mean, it's around the same thing. You're gonna have to come to the ground. But anyway, so as far as really trying to shoehorn Cedric into the scenario, I'm going to pitch this. I'm not going to have him replace Falcon. That's too easy. Falcon in the comic books, and this translates to movies, he's got a pet bird named Redwing. But to switch gears and more relatable, in the movies, specifically, I think just Civil War, they actually show their depiction of Redwing, which is mechanical, thank God, much better than having a silly bird follow you everywhere, which was in the comics, because comics are ridiculous. So it's basically like a tiny jet fighter. It's in the beginning of Civil War. You can see it. So I was thinking, let's have Cedric be Redwing. He's basically Falcon's purse, his little accessory. That's how I shoehorn him in. So right. Specifically, if anyone is so kind enough to Photoshop anything, I'd love to see Cedric like shooting out of Falcon's little jetpack ass. That'd be mega.
I'm sure if you ask, you shall receive. So my first pick, I think a lot of people have already thought about this. Probably a lot of people's first thoughts, I know is one of mine, is actually Duke Nukem to join the Avengers. And awesome. I chose him above all other FPS protagonists because, you do have like Master Chief, you do have Gordon Freeman, Doom guy, if he has a name. I don't think he has a name. Wolfenstein guy, I don't know. Basically, title of game and guy, basically. Yeah,
and Wolfenstein is basically Captain America anyway, shooting Nazis.
So yeah, basically to represent them, Duke Nukem, because he actually has like a very larger than life personality. All the rest are basically blank slates to allow the player to sort of attribute themselves onto them, whereas Duke Nukem is sort of like more of a character that is just sort of a defined character and a very bold one, and definitely not representative of most of the people who play him. And I think it would actually really be interesting to see him mingle with characters like Star-Lord and the Hulk even. Just like he's just such like this super macho, just testosterone steroid freak kind of guy. He would just totally clash in an amusing way with all the other personalities on the team, but it still has access to some really useful weapons that would be very helpful in the battle, so they kind of have to cooperate with him, even though he's like just the biggest douchebag the whole way through.
That's a champion fucking decision, mate. I mean, that's thank God you're here, because people can actually get their substance from your choices because they make sense, they're well thought out.
Well, so far I've got Duke Nukem to your Cedric, so let's hope your next pick kind of evens the scales.
Oh no, it will not. I promise, it will not. But no, really good choice on Duke Nukem because he is, like you say, he's got the kind of a comic book sort of vibe about him anyway. Larger than life, chomping on a cigar, ridiculous biceps. Real quick, who would you cast him as? Dolph Lundgren? What are we thinking?
Oh, I mean, if this had been the '90s, Dolph Lundgren would have been amazing. I know, and although Dolph Lundgren has aged very well, I don't think he quite. Oh no, I think he still comes across as a little bit too old for the part. Um, I've heard that they're going to cast John Cena to play Duke Nukem, or at least they were. I haven't heard very many updates on that. That's something I'd have to see to believe, just because I'm not sure if John Cena is a strong enough actor to really play outside of John Cena. This would be really quite far out of the comfort zone of John Cena, so I'm not entirely convinced, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Um, One of my picks is cannot possibly happen because when I've been asked about who would play Duke Nukem in the past, my answer was, well, based on Scott Pilgrim versus the World, I would have chosen Chris Evans, who is Captain America. So I can't use him. So I don't know. At this point, I don't have anyone really lined up that I would say is like sort of an ideal guy to play Duke Nukem at this moment.
Right, yeah, and I kind of don't either. Like you said with John Cena, I could actually see that working out. I'm not a huge fan of his. I don't think he's bad at acting. I just think they're really trying to force him. They're really
Yeah.
trying to force it. Like they're trying to make it work because it did so well with The Rock or whatever. And he's not bad, but he's just not great. But I could actually see him working because I feel like Duke Nukem's got this inherent cheesiness about him. Just
Yeah,
everything's so extreme. I could maybe see a cheesy kind of acting working with that.
I see it's cheesy in the sense that it's such an exaggerated
Yeah,
stereotype because he's so like, he is that just that grizzled, hard, macho to the point of being a parody. That's basically what he is. I know that there's a lot of debate as to whether or not his character is a parody. If you
that's
ask
a bad
me,
sign.
yeah, if you ask me, he's very
Probably
much a
is.
parody. But I think some of the creators even said that he's not really meant to be. But even if the creator, him or herself, I don't know who created Duke Nukem, even if they say it's not a parody, you can't convince me that he isn't because he's just such a parody to me. Um, and I just don't think that John Cena would fit because John Cena's more of that goofy over the top. He's more just sort of like that. He doesn't have that same kind of that macho meathead douchebag that is what I would come to expect out of Duke Nukem.
Right, yeah. You would expect him to be like that old asshole misogynist that like slaps asses as he walks away and shit.
That sort of thing. Not that I endorse that, but that's basically what
No.
he is, right? So,
Right, exactly. And
and I
it's
don't
funny too
I
when you
don't mind them adjusting the character to be a little bit toned down on that. Like I don't mind. I don't mind if they don't, but I'm just saying that even if they were to lighten them up a little bit, I think that John Cena is just too much of like the goofy, playful kind of not really quite the nugget of Duke Nukem.
plus I get the feeling from John Cena that he can't grow facial hair. and and I don't mean that as an insult, but it's like there's something unrugged about him, just very anti-rugged.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like this baby face thing I've got in my mind. I do have a hard time seeing him like like downing a bourbon and just chomping on a cigar sort of thing. He seems too clean. Here, I'm gonna jump in real quick. Shit, did I forget it? No, I didn't. Okay. I was gonna say real quick to your point about whether the developers whether he was a parody or not, and he was created in a little paradox of time, like that late '80s, early '90s. Like I could see in that time even them not being sure because everything was
Mhm.
just so like I always think of the '80s as like the world's puberty. Things were like
Yeah. I
a
think
little overreaching.
I think the personality that we've come to know of Duke Nukem came about through Duke Nukem 3D. I think Duke Nukem was, he was that sort of high testosterone macho guy in like the 2D side scrollers, but he never really had that much of a character about him beyond that. I think it was Duke Nukem 3D where he was that kind of um, you know, strippers and cigars kind of guy, right? Or at least I'm sure he could have derived that from his character in the originals, but I don't think it really was so explicit as it was in Duke Nukem 3D moving forward, which was the 90s.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I didn't keep that in mind too, how it evolved.
But yeah, I mean, it did take place in the 90s during this, kind of a pocket in which you had things like Married with Children and that sort of thing. So there was kind of like, I'm sure it was done with a sense of humor one way or another, whether or not it was an official parody. I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of that, at least not in this episode.
Yeah, basically they were so busy trying to be extreme and pushing everything to the most Mountain Dew it could be.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if they stopped to check in with reality.
That's actually a very good point too, because the 90s was very much the extreme. That was like the Attitude Era of the WWF, right? It was just so
big, flashy, extreme.
Yeah. So it was literally just that was the whole Jerry Springer era.
Right.
Or just like the whole shock TV, but just I'm sure a lot of that bled into the video games too.
Get a Surge Cola and watch Springer and wrestling.
All right, now your grand finale, your headliner, your main event. Who is your final pick for who could join the Avengers to face Thanos and save half the universe?
My final pick is Roger Wilco.
I see.
Yeah, crickets, isn't it? You're like that's shit. I'm not gonna encourage this type of behavior from you. The world is at peril. Half of everyone's dead, and you're fucking around with a janitor. That's great. I have a few reasons. Oh, first of all, Michael Cera would be awesome. I think.
No, Michael Cera should not have a career.
But don't worry, after he ruins it for all the Avengers, the whole world will hate him.
Definitely just keep him away from anything that I like, please. Just not Roger Wilco. Roger Wilco did as much as I should say as little as Roger Wilco deserves. And I love Roger Wilco. He's like my favorite. But as little as he deserves because he's like lazy and doesn't put any real effort into things, just he deserves so much better than Michael Cera.
You are right. You are right. It was just I can't let go of how ridiculous Michael Cera would look in that Avengers sweeping shot. Said that with the soft R. But he's just like a human cartoon.
Michael Cera should have been cast to play Hawkeye.
I feel like Michael Cera should go wipe his mouth. It always looks wet. All right. Anyway, my pick is not Michael Cera. My pick is Roger Wilco. I have a little reasoning behind it.
Just to harp on this one more time, I would sooner cast Shia LaBeouf as Roger Wilco than Michael Cera.
As a matter of fact, I would just go watch Indiana Jones 4 again instead of the film he's in.
It's not Indiana Jones 4. It's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Do not give it a number. It does not deserve to be numbered in the series.
Fair play. I was wondering where you're going with that. That actually worked out. You're right. Out of respect for the Church of Indiana. I don't know. I'm gonna just say some things and pass it to you as quick as possible because right. I clearly my contribution to this episode is just the fluff, not so much the hard hitting points. But if we get some Cedric memes or Keith Hawkeye memes,
I'm pretty sure that you and I are having more fun with this episode than anyone who's listening to it. As with all of our episodes, but
Yes, and for the 3 people left, God, I hope one of you is a Photoshopper. I want to see Keith's head on Hawkeye.
I do know that my good friend Anna Vigu is listening to this, and Roberta Vaughn, they're listening to this. I know if no one else listens to this, those two are listening to this. So yeah, take notes.
Right, yeah, hi ladies, I love you. Please do them memes. That'd be mint. All right, I'll get one tattooed on me. Not really.
I never give them shout outs, but I had to because they are our most loyal listeners. So, hi. Anyways, Avengers. Roger Wilco, apparently.
I was hoping you were just going to keep going, but all right, back to me. So, Roger Wilco, all I can really say is this. This is ridiculous. I'm even trying at this point. I don't know why, but he...
Going down swinging, I like
it. He has a way where even though he's a big fuck up, He has a way. First of all, the adventures are very fun. All right, it's the journey, not a destination, or your untimely death at the hands of Thanos. It's the journey there, man. He everything always works out for him. So it doesn't really matter how useless he is. If you put him in the scenario, it's now Roger Wilco's licensed thing, and it will somehow just work out in the end. That's his magic power is affecting the hands of the writers.
That is true. That is he does this kind of stumble across the finish line.
Yeah. Let's say the solution in this predicament is to hit a button. Roger Wilco would be the guy that was like some guy bent over and bumped into him, and then he fell on the correct button. That's what he does. So there.
All right.
It's solid.
So he's the Jar Jar Binks of the Avengers.
Oh, I don't like it put that way.
All right. I feel bad saying it that way, but that's kind of analogous. Like he that's kind of what Jar Jar Binks's power was.
So basically, he's the Michael Cera of the Avengers.
God damn it! I can't argue that. Now I'm coughing because I am so defeated by your argument that I'm literally going to die now. Okay, so we're going to move on from that. And
save us. Give us some veg.
Okay.
Give us some substance.
This is one I'm doing just for novelty factor, and it's going to be pretty cool too. I mean, I've been saving this. I'm kind of proud of this one. My pick for to join the Avengers is American McGee's Alice.
Nice. All right.
Even though she's like, how old is she? Like 12 or 14 or something. She's really young. But she's also really dark. She's like almost like not quite a Wednesday Addams, not quite a Lydia, whatever her last name is. More of just like, she's just disturbed. She's a little bit more disturbed, like in a deeper and darker way. And that's kind of her personality, is she's just sort of like that, just, I don't know. You kind of know or you don't. I don't know if I'll be able to explain it. I'm not a psychologist. But the point of American McGee's Alice is that, Wonderland being from her dreams and essentially being in her head, when bad shit happens to her, she goes insane and gets committed to an asylum, and therefore Wonderland gets completely warped, and she has to, try to restore her by restoring her sanity. But if we can do a little bit of plot gymnastics, I don't know if we can like get her into the real world to fight to fight Thanos. She'd be really cool because she has, she'd probably have the Cheshire Cat with her, who's basically a figment of her imagination at this point, but he has some really cool lines. And he'll be guiding her, and it'd be kind of interesting to have someone with a character that no one can see or hear, kind of telling her how to interpret everything that is going around her. She has the Vorpal Blade for melee combat. She has a blunderbuss and a Jabberwock staff to just like destroy things from a distance. And it just, she would be this, she'd be this like 12 to 14-year-old girl just out on the battlefield kicking ass and destroying everyone. She'd be like my favorite character if this were to actually happen.
Yeah.
It's just because she's like this like dark, gothic, twisted, deranged little girl going out there with a blade and a blunderbuss, just destroying everything. Oof. Yeah. And she also has like a Jabberwock staff, which is like a staff with like the eye of the Jabberwock on it that she uses to like shoot lasers and explosives and stuff like that. She also has like a whole bunch of other weapons, but I'm just kind of leaving them out just because they're a little bit, but even just the three that I mentioned, the Vorpal Blade, the blunderbuss, and the Jabberwock staff, she just like go out there and just like destroy everything. Not even necessarily in an OP kind of way. It would just be kind of cool just to see like this one little girl running and just like slashing people, just like, like shooting everything in front of her. It'd just be cool.
No, I love it. I love that it's like a horror character.
Yes.
There's no other, just straight up, just like this terrifying fucking, like one of the twins from The Shining, but
basically,
with like blood on her dress.
No, that's exactly kind of it. That's exactly what she comes across as. Like even visually, like that's exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like so creepy that so creepy Thanos would be like, take it easy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And there is Alice in Wonderland, the Disney movie, and she would just be like that, but also like the anti-Disney version of that.
Right, right. Yeah, and I really think as far as like how would we put this in a film, which is kind of the original idea for this episode until I fucked it up. So we can at least do it with this character. Putting it in the film, that's such a brilliant idea of having the Cheshire Cat maybe a little translucent, on screen so we know it's only in her mind, and then the Cheshire Cat can like I don't know, either whisper twisted things to drive her along or maybe warn her about things.
Yeah, that's basically
just,
what
like
he does
you said,
in the
some
game.
sort of companion.
Yeah.
Right.
And it'd also be kind of cool because it's like her character throughout the movie, like even when it's not in battle, she's just that very unnerving presence in the room.
Yes, yeah.
Like she'd just be like standing in the corner, probably not even looking her direction, probably just like doing her own thing.
Like it's been 10 minutes and I ain't seen her blink once.
Yeah.
It's really off-putting. Like
Probably,
flying a kite at nighttime is wrong.
Yeah. Like coming across like she's kind of ignoring, but she's still kind of absorbing the information. And you're just kind of like, so do you have anything to say about this? And she'll just be like quiet. And she's just like,
right. I was just gonna say that her being mute towards the teammates would be awesome, and you could have it to where like the only thing she verbally communicates with is the Cheshire Cat, who they can't see.
yes,
So
exactly.
she just every now and then like look behind her shoulder and be like, "Yes, we should," and like everyone be like, "Oh, don't.
And she
just get this over with."
She
man.
won't
I don't
even
like Alice.
do anything. Like you won't even know what she does or is good at until like the final battle. Like the entire time they just like stumble across her. They think they're rescuing her because she's like this little girl.
Right.
They think like, oh, it's our duty to protect this little girl, and she's just being like this pouty goth chick, kind of, who just ignoring them because she's a teenager, kind of, as all teenagers do, guy or girl, and just being this dark, twisted, demented presence in the room. And then as soon as it comes time to battle, she just like runs out there, just like slashing everything with her knife, like shooting things down with a blunderbuss and a jabberwock staff, just like cutting them down to laser and explosives. Anyways, so yeah, that would probably be my pick for someone to...
This went downhill. We got pretty dark pretty quickly, but I think that's the best choice.
So, yeah, I think that would be my pick, my definitive choice. Because again, it's not that there isn't a precedent. It is a bit of a crossover because Disney did have Alice in Wonderland, and now here she is.
I'm wondering. You laid out not only an awesome choice, but a logically sound one too. Like she'd be a good team member. Not saying team player, but she'd be a good Avenger. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically the best argument I think you could give. You just done. I'd like to see what people would think about the best argument possible versus Cedric. And would Cedric still fucking win? if put to a popular vote, they'd be like, Rick made a lot of good points. I don't even think Cedric would do nothing, but I want to see the fucking bird. I'm sorry.
All right, so why don't you let us know? Why don't you either post or tweet or send an email to mail@classicgamersguild.com and choose who would you like to see as an Avenger, American McGee's Alice or Cedric the Owl?
Hashtag Cedric the Avenger. Make that go viral, mates.
Cedric the Avenger, yes. Let's do that. Hashtagged. I'm totally not... Actually, wait. Maybe I will. Yeah, I'll do it. All right. Any final thoughts on this? Now that we have riled up half of the people who exist.
Yeah, no final thoughts. I had a great time. This was particularly fun. I would just say the usual: don't do a murder. Hashtag Cedric the Avenger. Hashtag Rick play Kathy Rain. Get on it.